रिकॉर्ड मतलब ओके हाँ Good evening and a very warm welcome to Front Page in its new studio avatar only on the AIM Network, India's definitive media organization and voice on everything AI and technology. Tonight on Front Page, India's technology story is about consolidation and contrast. A unified global pitch at Davos, states competing with sharply different strategies, a surge in deep tech skills on the one hand, and a slowdown in traditional tech hiring on the other. These are, of course, the signals shaping where India's next phase of growth may come from. And here are the headlines. India centralizes its global pitch. India centralizes its global pitch at Davos 2026 with Bharat House offering investors a unified portfolio of AI, semiconductor and green energy hubs across rival states like Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. Karnataka accelerates its Beyond Mangaluru mission by releasing a 1.93 crore rupees grant to Vertex, managed workspace in Mangaluru, aiming to operationalize 6,000 seats and drive tech employment in the coastal cluster. Andhra Pradesh enrolls 50,000 students in a landmark quantum initiative with IIT Madras and IBM, signaling a massive state-backed bet to transform Amravati into India's global deep tech capital. And finally, India's top IT firms added just 17 net employees in the last 9 months of fiscal year 2026 as TCS led massive cuts and AI automation severed the traditional link between revenue growth and hiring. Good evening. The World Economic Forum is back. This year's theme, a spirit of dialogue. And the timing definitely matters. The world is moving through a very difficult phase. As we know, active conflict, strained supply chains, and a major technological reset driven by AI and compute. Capital is cautious. Governments are recalibrating. Yet, despite all of this uncertainty, countries are still showing up, talking and looking for common ground, which is encouraging. As far as India is concerned, we arrive at this forum with a very clear sense of timing. The message this year goes beyond invest in India. It's about partnership and about positioning India as a reliable long-term anchor in an unpredictable world. So before we understand what the strategy really looks like and where the money is likely to flow, please stay with us. This is Front Page. Please like, share, and subscribe. On the strategy front, in earlier years, India's presence at Davos was fragmented. Multiple states, multiple entry points. For the investors, it often raised a very simple question. Where does one begin? This year, the approach looks very different because of Bharat House. A single venue, a coordinated narrative. The idea is straightforward. Start at one place, understand the opportunity, then choose where to engage. And of course, the pitch itself has evolved. India isn't positioning itself on low-cost labor anymore. Instead, the focus is on 4 areas that define the 2026 economy. And number 1, AI and data centers. Second is semiconductors and electronics. And number 3, global capability centers. And finally, at 4 is the green transition. This defines a shared framework, but it also is where the competition begins. Because while the headline message is aligned, the states are no longer offering the same proposition. Each state is sharpening its own focus and staking out a very distinct role within the larger story, indicating the dynamic now which is starting to take shape. Let us, of course, start with Karnataka. The pitch this year is direct and execution-led. The emphasis is on speed, moving from commitment to construction without any delays. For companies looking at global capability centers or data centers, that pace we just mentioned is the selling point. Now, of course, if we compare that with Telangana, the focus here is longer term, artificial intelligence, life sciences. The effort is to attract high value research and specialized talent instead of just large workforces. Then, of course, there's Gujarat. The message here is quite clear and unapologetic. Semiconductors, defense manufacturing. So as global supply chains are rebuilt and security spending rises, Gujarat is positioning itself as the place to produce. Maharashtra is leaning into its scale. It's presenting itself as the center of gravity, drawing large pools of capital and ambition with an eye on the trillion-dollar economy target. And then, of course, there are the outliers who are definitely worth mentioning. Kerala is framing its pitch around responsible investment, ESG aligned with lower environmental costs. Uttar Pradesh is emphasizing scale, offering volume and capacity for large deployments. Finally, there are, of course, some very, very notable shifts as well, which is Madhya Pradesh is positioning itself as an emerging mobility hub. Jharkhand is recasting its image, moving from a focus on extraction to a role in critical mineral supply chains. It's, of course, a very smart pivot and one that reflects how the competition between states is evolving. And then, of course, there is Assam, which brings the Northeast to Davos. Its presence is definitely a statement in itself. For the first time, Assam is on the global stage at the World Economic Forum, signaling a shift in how the region wants to be seen. The pitch covers electronics, semiconductors, tourism, and tech-led development, which reflects a move to showcase itself as a strategic platform and not just a regional one. But of course, we can't talk about this year without addressing the two very different stories, which is the heavyweight, Andhra Pradesh. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu is in Davos, and his presence is definitely unmistakable. The pitch is Swarna Andhra 2047, and it's delivered with confidence. Naidu's work is not just a feeble attempt to get noticed. On the other hand, it is an effort to set the agenda. He says Andhra Pradesh has attracted 25% of all proposed investments in India in recent months. A very striking claim. The focus areas are ambitious: quantum technologies, space, and digital governance. What Naidu is presenting is a state that wants to be run with a CEO's mindset. Then, of course, there's the silence. Tamil Nadu, normally one of India's strongest manufacturing and export hubs, a regular presence at Davos. This year, Tamil Nadu isn't on the ground. The reason is domestic politics. State elections have definitely taken priority. But in a global environment, this competitive silence carries weight as well. It's a deliberate choice, and one the world is actually starting to notice. So, what does all of this mean for us? What India is offering right now is choice. A range of states with different strengths operating under a broader framework of trust. But this is also the moment to stay grounded. Every year at Davos, announcements are made, memorandums are signed, headlines talk about billions. But as we have seen, what matters more usually definitely comes later when the cameras have stopped rolling. Over the coming days, we'll be watching very closely on Front Page. Who actually breaks ground, starts hiring, and turns intent into action? Because the real story isn't about which state marked its attendance. It's actually which state turns those conversations into real jobs. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page. And watch closely, because you know what? The outcomes will definitely follow. And of course, remember, think AI, think AIM. Good evening. Tonight, we are following a very specific signal which is coming through a lot of noise. Everyone is very painfully aware about the Bengaluru story. The traffic, the rents, the crowding, the sense that the city is unfortunately bursting at its seams, which of course brings us to move away as far as that narrative is concerned. And there is a move which has been made by the Karnataka government, which tries to answer a very simple question. Is there meaningful technology growth beyond the outer ring road? And of course, here's the headline. 1.93 crore rupees is released, mind you, not announced or earmarked, but released. The recipient is Vertex Managed Workspace, and the location is Mangaluru. The Department of Electronics, IT and BT is calling this a win for its Beyond Bengaluru push. Minister Priyank Kharge has described it as a milestone. KDEM frames it more as an ecosystem coordination. But we at Front Page are looking at this slightly differently. We see it more as a test of whether policy can actually move work, talent, and confidence beyond one city, and whether India's tech story can finally spread out without eroding. And of course, that is the story tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at how this is supposed to work out. KDEM, the Karnataka Digital Economy Mission, describes this as a push focused on growth and follow-through. The idea isn't to announce new hubs, it's actually to make sure that they actually are functioning. The roles are very clearly split. The government sets the rules and incentives. Private companies put up the space and the facilities. The grant helps reduce early risk. Enterprises see activity, not just intent. Hiring begins. If it holds, a local cluster starts to form. It's a very simple sequence. Policy, infrastructure, jobs, everything in the right order. But the real question is far simpler. Does that sequence hold once it meets deadlines, budgets, and of course, the real hiring decisions? Now, of course, for the numbers. The minister says Mangaluru isn't just starting from scratch. That's true. There are already more than 10 global capability centers in place. Over 1 million square feet of grade A office space is under construction. And in the last 24 months, 40 plus companies have set up operations. Together, they have created around 8,000 jobs. The grant recipient, Vertex, says it, currently supports 2,250 professionals and plans to scale it to 6,000 seats. That, of course, looks very, very serious expansion. And the ambition does not stall here. It actually goes further. The IT-BT secretary has put a number on it. These clusters are expected to contribute close to 10% of Karnataka's digital economy GDP within 5 years, indicating those as the stakes. So the question now isn't whether the intent is there. That's there. It is how the state plans to turn this momentum into something durable. The logic, as we know, is shifting. The old logic was talent chases investment. We move to the city where the jobs are. We've all done it. The new logic is actually investment chases talent. The jobs move to where we are. This is why the state is throwing incentives at the wall. Relocation incentives, 50,000 rupees per employee for firms expanding beyond the capital. And they're, of course, assigning identities to these cities like they are characters in a video game. Mysuru, the semiconductor hub, Mangaluru, Hubli, Dharwad, Kalaburgi, Shivamoga. Well, it is rare in Indian policy. Usually, we see everything everywhere all at once. Karnataka is trying specialization plus distribution. Now, of course, we are at that point of the story where we have to address the elephant in the server room, which is, 1.93 crore rupees. Is it enough to build a city which will rival Bengaluru? The short answer, no, not at all. It's actually pocket change for a tech giant. It's more like a rounding error for a unicorn. But I feel we should not measure it from that standpoint. Yes, we know it's not enough to build the building, but it might just be enough to unlock the cycle, which of course means the real test is here, which is if this grant helps Vertex scale quickly, if those 6,000 seats are filed by real teams, And if those teams stay, then Karnataka gets what actually matters. Proof that this model works. Because capital, as we know, follows trust. And trust follows execution. But if this pauses just as an announcement, then well, it's just another good headline. And we have, of course, all seen those so many times in the past. So I guess the real metric isn't the size of the grant. It is actually the conversion rate. So as you know, we have covered the broader policy push before on front page. But for now, the focus is Mangaluru. And what takes shape once the excitement of this announcement dies down. Please, of course, tell us what you think in the comments below. Is the coast the next tech story, or does Bengaluru still dominate? This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. $50,000. That's the number on the board today. Good evening and welcome to Front Page. And no, it's not a new social media trend or a weekend coding course. It's quantum, one of the hardest, most demanding frontiers in science. And 50,000 students from Andhra Pradesh have enrolled in an advanced quantum skilling program, jointly offered by IIT Madras, backed by IBM Research and delivered through NPTEL. This is extremely eventful because most countries struggle to build a pipeline of just a few hundred people in quantum. Andhra Pradesh has just surfaced 50,000 learners. Before, of course, we understand the sheer magnitude of this and why it matters, please stay with us because we are tracking how deep tech starts to scale. N. Chandrababu Naidu took to X and called it an overwhelming response, end quote. But the meaning behind the words used by the CM is that he has tied it to a specific, brilliantly ambitious number. 1 lakh, yes, 100 professionals trained to global standards. And this is a state-backed execution order. So why does this matter? Well, globally, quantum talent is the scarcest resource on the planet. The United States is fighting for it. China is hoarding it. Europe is subsidizing it. They are all in a battle over a tiny pool of specialists. And then there is Andhra Pradesh. Just a month ago, we mentioned regarding the Amravati as a quantum valley. Yes, we saw the press release, the roadmap, and went on to ask the hard question. Is this just a ribbon-cutting ceremony, or is it for real? Today, the enrollment numbers have definitely slapped that skepticism right out of the room. Andhra Pradesh is diligently building the ecosystem with the one thing money can't instantly buy: talent. The enrolled students will be enriched with knowledge of a curriculum which is anchored by IIT Madras faculty. It is backed by IBM Research's applied work and it is delivered on India's national skilling rail, NPTEL. And there is, of course, amazing motivation which has been added to the mix. The Chief Minister has said he will personally felicitate the gold and silver medalists, turning quantum mechanics into a competitive sport, which means excellence is being tracked. Just participating is definitely not enough. One has to study really hard to win. So what Andhra Pradesh is doing here is quite deliberate. In most technology hubs, the sequence is very familiar. Capital arrives first, companies follow, talent comes later. Here, the order is different. The focus is on building the talent base up front with the expectation that ecosystems and investments will follow. We've seen versions of this approach work in IT. Yes, we've done that in the past. We've seen it in semiconductors. What's new in the pace and the choice of technology? Quantum computing sits at the very edge of what nations are competing over. It shapes national security. It underpins future cryptography. It's the technology that can break today's encryption and help design tomorrow's medicines. Countries that develop the talent don't just adopt the technology. They influence how it's used. Andhra Pradesh is placing a very clear bet on that. That India shouldn't only consume quantum technology, it should actually help build it, shape it, and eventually take it to the world. And in conclusion, as always, the front page take. When 50,000 young people voluntarily sign up for linear algebra and superposition, it tells you two things. One, the demand is definitely very real. Two, the execution is live. But the real test isn't enrollment, it's outcomes. Where do these 50,000 go in 3 years? Yeah, that's the big question. Do they find labs, launch startups, or do they just leave? We need advanced tracks, industry absorption, and research pathways. But you know what? For today, Andhra Pradesh has made a statement. It wants to lead. It is willing to spend. And the students are showing up. We will, of course, be tracking every conversion from enrollment to employment right here on Front Page. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Front Page by AIM Network. And as always, remember, like, share, subscribe, and think AI. Think quantum for sure. Think AIM. Good evening. Indian IT for decades has followed a very simple equation. More revenue meant more people. That very equation has broken down. Over the last 9 months, India's top 5 IT firms have barely added any employees, even as deals kept coming in and, of course, the revenues continued to grow. In fact, some of the biggest names have cut jobs. AI is now embedded in almost every large contract. Costs are rising, and headcount is no longer the growth level it used to be at one point. So what exactly has changed inside India's IT industry? And what does this mean for the next generation of engineers? Well, to help us, of course, unveil the truth behind all of this, we are joined by our very own tech journalist, the brilliant Mohit Pandey, who's been tracking this shift very, very closely. Welcome to the show, Mohit. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me to the show.
Wonderful,
how are you doing?
As always, I'm doing wonderfully well. Thank you so much, and looking forward to this particular conversation of ours.
Yes.
Let's kick things off by first setting the context. Let's start with the basics. So when people hear that hiring, as far as the hiring aspect has stalled, but revenues and deal wins are still coming in, it sounds very counterintuitive, Mohit.
Yep.
So the question is, what has really happened inside India's top IT firms over the last year? And how did we get to a point where growth continues, but jobs unfortunately don't?
See, if you look at the growth part, I think even if for this quarter, I think a lot of Indian IT firms have grown, like their revenue has grown year on year. But if you look at the last 6 years, 7 years, it's mostly the same. So I think Indian IT is not growing as much as we thought it would. But at the same time, their AI deals, AI-led revenue, that is growing a lot.
Yeah.
So, and that somehow is directly linked to what is happening when it comes to the layoffs. So as you mentioned, right, only the top 5 Indian IT firms only added 17 net employees this quarter.
You want to shed light on that because people might be a little confused. So what happened?
So I think we heard, 3-4 months back or something, that TCS is starting to lay off a large portion of their mid-senior level employees, right? And that continued, that started, and for the last 3 quarters, they have totally, I think, TCS specifically has laid off 25,816 employees.
Wow.
And that is the shocking number. In contrast, the other 4 firms like Infosys, HCL Tech, Wipro and Tech Mahindra, they have added employees. Infosys, for example, has added 13.5k employees. So that contrast, I don't know why TCS is doing that. I mean, how that is happening. But the biggest reason that I could come across, as they mentioned as well, is the impact of labor code, the labor code changes.
Okay.
So basically now all these compliance issues, the wage hikes and all of these things that they have to now implement for their employees.
Right.
So now that is impacting.
So they don't want that headache. They would rather that.
They want, I mean, it's obviously a headache for all these big IT firms. But at the same time, I think it's something that they said that this is going to only impact this quarter. And from the next quarter, it's going to get recovered. So I think all the profits that dropped, I think 11%, 14%, they're all just for this quarter. I think they'll recover from the next quarter.
So essentially, the way I understand it is, Mohit, how you explained it was that the sheer attrition or the sheer number of people that left or were, told to leave by TCS is such a huge number that even if the others hired, they could not set it off. And that is why this 17, this magic number of 17 net total.
Okay, and compared it to the last year, it was 17,000 total additions. Wow. So it's 1,000x.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, this brings me to the next thought. As you had just mentioned that, it was not a, so does this mean when you said that it isn't a bad quarter, so it is not just a one bad quarter bit. AI, new labor costs, margin pressure, all of these seem to be converging at once.
Yeah.
So then, why is this shift happening now, Mohit? And which factor matters more? Is it AI reducing manpower needs? Is it the rising costs making large teams unsustainable? Or finally, is it the client simply unwilling to pay more?
I think the biggest reason for all of this, so essentially, if you look at all the quarters of Indian IT, right, the third quarter is usually the slowest one.
Sure.
But now with the labor code changes, it got impacted even more. And so that is the one hit that the Indian IT took at this quarter. But interestingly, when it comes to TCS, they have said that the layoff part or the people letting go of the people part, they're going to continue it in Q4 as well.
Oh, okay.
So TCS is going to continue laying off employees.
Right.
Meanwhile, Wipro and HCL Tech have said they're going to onboard freshers.
Sure.
So I don't think it's because of AI. It can be because of AI. It's too early to predict as well. But at the same time, I think you must have heard this news recently that Infosys was hiring up to 22 lakh salary for freshers.
We've done a story on that on front page.
Yeah, exactly. So AI skills are now getting more important. But
plus also, if you remember, we've done a story on Infosys, which was the implementation, I believe, of Devin.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just coming to that.
Right.
So the Devin, as we call the AI software engineer,
right.
I mean, that was always, when it was launched, I think 1 or 2 years back, it was touted as one of the biggest threat to Indian IT.
Sure.
And I think that story is still continuing as of now. Because as soon as the Infosys and Cognition partnership was announced, right, the whole of Twitter and LinkedIn was filled with people. What will happen to freshers?
True.
What will happen to lower entry jobs? But at the same time, if you look at it, TCS, the people that TCS is laying off, they are not new freshers or entry-level people. They are actually laying off mid and senior level.
Yeah, as you mentioned, right.
Yeah.
True.
So I think I was also speaking to one of the analysts recently, and he said that what happened was all these mid and senior level employees were actually hired during the big data boom, the cloud boom.
Okay.
And when everyone was learning SAP, and those were the skills that were needed, right? And now they are managing the teams that are now asked to perform AI roles, like AI tasks. And they can't manage them anymore. So, I mean, it's like upskill, like always a 10x engineer will always take away your job. It's just like that. Even for a manager's job, I think that is happening now in Indian IT.
Fair. Yeah, so I guess, I mean, a clear fact that at the end of the day, there is a yawning gap as far as the skill requirement is concerned.
Yeah.
And also the fact that that Devin is in the details.
Devin is in the details, yeah. I know you wanted to say
I
that.
had to say that.
Yeah.
Mohit, which brings me to this, and which is a very pertinent point, which I really want you to, shed light on. The question is, as far as the students and early career engineers are definitely worried about, of course, you've mentioned right now that, it was a mid and the senior management, which was not being able to deal with all the upskilling for that matter, or they did not have the skill set.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But still, right, there is always a sense of concern. So imagine you yourself, let's say, are a student who's studying and, you have these big dreams of joining the big five, etc. What is the case? What do you see it as? I mean, as far as the IT industry is concerned, the industry itself seems to be changing underneath them.
Yeah.
So for engineers who are studying right now or just entering the workforce, what does the future look like, Mohit? And what skills will still matter? And what assumptions, more importantly, about IT careers may no longer hold? And also another little thought which I had, which I want you to probably address, is what are the companies trying to, look at? Because finally that's what it is. They are hiring.
Yeah.
So is there any specific magic recipe that they're looking at, which might help people who are watching?
I think the signal is clear from the Infosys and the TCS part when they're hiring for 22 lakhs for AI-ready freshers, right? If you're studying in a college and you're just still learning programming or MySQL or all these data things, you might not necessarily get a very good job. And I think that is, and this signal was there if you move away from Indian IT for a second, right?
Yeah.
If in Mangaluru, there are a lot of startups coming up, a lot of GCCs are coming up, and they're all hiring people who know Cursor, who know Lovable, and they want people who know how to use all these tools and build and ship products in a day.
Sure.
And then you come to the Indian IT part. They're hiring in bulks, right? They're hiring freshers.
True.
So if one fresher in that is able to do a job of 20 people alone, I think the size of these IT firms and all these employees will definitely shrink. And for college freshers who are going to join these firms, I mean, it's a very scary thing. I mean, it's very hard to sugarcoat it in any way, right? Because you just have to upskill.
But no need to do it, Mohit, to be honest. I mean, that's a ground reality which I believe everyone has to, wake up to.
Yeah, I was speaking to one developer just today, and he's a cracked engineer, as you would say.
Okay.
So he was saying that he used to do a lot of coding, but he doesn't do it anymore. And he works at Microsoft, for example. But he's like, even in Microsoft, he's not doing any more coding. He's just typing prompts. And I think, as of now, we don't know what Indian IT is hiring for, right?
Yeah.
If you look at all the job openings that all these firms have, they're like, you need machine learning engineer, you need data analyst.
Sure.
But what do these roles actually want you to do? We don't know that, and that is going to change rapidly with the launch of these AI tools.
So it's a wait and a watch situation, Mohit?
Yeah, I think we'll have to wait one more year to figure out what exactly Indian IT need. Until then, it's a very scary situation for freshers and people who are getting into the field.
Okay.
As much as I can say, yeah, but it sounds very bad, but I mean,
No, fair. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you are somebody who is very deeply ensconced in the system, so it's a valid voice that you have for you to at least just tell people what they need to listen to and probably equip themselves. On finally, I'd like you to, Mohit, as always, give us very quickly how would you like to summarize this into a front page take?
I would say, if you look at all these IT firms' results, right? TCS announced 1.8 billion AI revenue. Infosys didn't announce, but they said they're working on 4,600 agents. 90, I think top 200 of their clients, 90% of them are working on AI.
Yeah.
So when all of them are working on AI, it's definitely important for freshers and the people who are coming out of colleges and want to get into these jobs to know how to use AI. And if you're not using AI, you will probably get behind. And that has been the story, I think, for the last 2 years, I think we've been discussing here.
Sure.
That it's important to upskill. Sure. And I think, yeah, that is the front page take from my end. Like
makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But I think when it comes to the Indian IT part, the companies themselves are also very stagnant right now.
Yeah.
Like we saw in this quarter that the profitability was down, even though they might recover the next quarter. But I think the size will shrink of people who are working in them, and maybe AI agents will take over. I think to end, I think McKinsey is a consultant for obviously, but they said that a lot of I'm not sure about the figure, but they said we have some 20,000 employees and 6,000 of them are now AI agents.
Wow.
So I think the shift like that is happening right now, and I think people should be aware of it and just upskill themselves faster.
Makes sense. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Mohit, of course, who reports extensively as far as the IT sector is concerned, has said it and has said it very plainly without sugarcoating anything, and I believe he's right. We should not fear AI replacing, as he mentioned, our jobs. We should fear AI replacing us when we have no skills as far as AI is concerned. So AI won't take your job. If you don't know AI, then yes, you probably will be in trouble. That, ladies and gentlemen, is front page for tonight. It was wonderful, of course, as every evening is, having you all like, share, and subscribe. And as we always say, think AI, definitely think upskilling, and always think AIM.